Hi, welcome to this fundamental series video on canvas formatters in Nitral. A canvas formatter is similar to H and V boxes, except that a canvas formatter positions its content via coordinates, whereas H and V boxes arrange their contents either horizontally or vertically. So that said, let's take a look at our setup here. We have this namespace called graph paper, which we'll discuss later in this video. And then we simply have a My Document class here where we're showing a canvas, which is this blue rectangle we see here on the screen. So let's first talk about what a canvas is. We're going to press F1 here to begin with just to see what we have in the way of parameters. It has a width, a height, and a border class, same as H and V boxes. And a canvas is just another box, except as I said earlier, it positions its content via coordinates. So to illustrate that, let's just place a little bit more text in here and press F5 to see what happens. So unlike an H box or V box, the text landed directly atop the previous text. That's because it hasn't been positioned. In a canvas, you have to tell things where they're going to go, otherwise they're just going to be drawn in the top left corner. So we're going to redo these two pieces of text here by placing them inside of paragraphs and in each paragraph giving it an X and Y coordinate. So we press F5 and now we can see the text is placed in a canvas. You place your content by using coordinates. Okay, since we're showing text in a canvas here, I want to talk about that a little bit more. So I'm going to paste in another canvas here, and this one's just going to have some rounded corners. And what we want to do is put some text inside of this, specifically because I want to talk about text positioning in a graphical object like a box of some form, an H box, a V box, or a canvas. Before we do though, I want to move this over here. So I'm going to wrap these in an H box just because I want to position this to the right. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and put some text in this canvas here. We're going to give it a text height of 14 points. And we're just going to call it type text. And we can see that when we place the text in the box, that even though it's drawing in the upper left corner, it's got this space on the top. So I'm going to zoom in here so we can look at this in better detail. And I'm going to press Control Shift and hold it down. And you should be able to see a gray box around this text. And you see these two little bars going vertical here and here. I can't move the mouse any further out. And that also has a bar going across the top, which is sitting atop the black border, so you can't see it. But that extra space on the top denotes the leading in the text, which is basically just a little extra headroom that fonts use to place things like accents or superscript text. And when Nitral places the text, it takes into account the leading. So if you want to tighten that text up and move it, there's two simple ways you can go about it. One is to simply apply to the actual text paragraph itself a text offset property and give it a negative value. In this case, I'm going to give text offset negative value of 20, which puts it right in the middle. It moves it. If I hold down Control Shift now, you'll see the box is now raised above the border of the canvas itself. Another way to do it, we'll comment that out, is to use the Y value when placing the text. So here we give the text a Y value of -4. And we'll press F5 and it has essentially the same result. So that's it. We just wanted to cover the positioning of text in a canvas or another box like an H box or a V box, so that if you encounter that extra space, you know how to deal with it. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, let's reset our view here a little bit. And we'll keep this zoomed in so it's easier for you to see. And I'm also going to zoom the code in just a little bit so it's also a little easier to see on the video. Okay, so here we're going to go ahead and paste this graph paper here. We talked about it at the beginning. We have this graph paper namespace, and this is just something that we drew up for other purposes that I'm using here. It has a show method that simply makes X and Y lines. And so let's just go down here and let's run it. And it just draws us a canvas. So I go back up here, we can see that this graph paper show method is drawing a canvas. So it makes a canvas with grid lines. And what we've done here is we've made it 600 by 300, where each square is 10 pixels in size. And as with anything in Nitro, we can revise anything. So we're going to just revise our graph paper here so we can illustrate the placement of content using X and Y. Before we do, I'm going to drop in a paragraph here just to give us a little space for the prior objects. Let's do this. So the first thing I put in here was this simple little for loop that just draws a 10 by 10 square over and over again. It draws it 20 times. And so let's just see what happens. So I'm going to press F5. And that's what happens. We are simply creating the X and Y coordinates for a bunch of little square boxes 20 times over. And so that's kind of fun, and it just illustrates the placement of content by using coordinates. That's how things are done in a canvas. And we can take that same concept and have a little fun with it and just do the same thing in reverse. And we've got ourselves a little X. And then more meaningfully, in a canvas, we can actually add another canvas. So here we've added another canvas and we've given it some coordinates. And we've also given it a transform. It's one of the things you can do with the canvas and other graphical objects, other boxes, is you can apply a transform to them. And we're going to rotate it backwards. We're going to rotate it to the left 45 degrees. And we've simply given it a paragraph with some text. And if we press F5, we'll see that it's placed in the image, in the canvas here. And so that illustrates how we can rotate and position things inside a canvas at will. So let's take a look at a somewhat more realistic use of a canvas. So let me find the bottom of my graph paper here. I'm just going to put in a paragraph as a line spacer, and then I'll paste in some code here. And so we're adding a paragraph, and I'm just going to run it, and then we'll talk about what it does here. So F5. So obviously we've drawn ourselves a little warning box for flammable vapors, something that you might see on an air compressor or a hot water heater or something that produces sparks. You don't want to store a gas can somewhere nearby or things catch on fire. So to do that, we simply have a paragraph right up here at the top that's drawing at the upper left. And we've got a bunch of alignment options. By the way, I set this canvas up with an edge class of 6,2. So that's the border, 6-point border with 2 pixels, not a 6-point border, a 6-pixel border with 2 pixels of internal padding. That's what this little separator is here. And I can zoom in a little bit more on this. And then we have a paragraph here with a gray background. And centered text, we're making use of Nitro's icons. If we press F1 on this icon here, we've got this whole list of icons that are available that you can use in your documents. And it's placing the word warning in there. So that's very straightforward. And then following that paragraph, we have a canvas that is 100% width being added to the bottom. And then very simply, we have a fit box with an image here, which is the gas can with the vapor symbol. And then we have another fit box with this image of the little person on fire. And then last but not least, we add in a paragraph and we add the words flammable vapors here. And each of these things, as we can see, is specifically placed using coordinates. So that's a little bit more of a realistic use case scenario for a canvas. So the canvas is another powerful formatter in Nitro. We've only touched the surface here on the features of a canvas, but this should be sufficient to get you started if you need to use one in one of your documents. If you have questions, please reach out to us on Discord. You can find the link to our Discord server in the description box below. Thanks for watching.